Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Right Off Track, where we dive behind the scenes to the real life journeys of incredible people. And today we have another incredible guest joining us, introducing Dr. Neeta, a compassionate pediatrician and a lifelong learner. For over 2 decades, Dr. Neeta has been the trusted pediatrician in her area, recognized as the go-to healthcare professional for children. Her genuine care for each patient goes beyond the medical expertise she brings. It encompasses a deep understanding of their unique needs and a commitment to their well being. But Dr. Neeta's dedication doesn't stop there. She's continuously seeking to advance her own skills and education and continuously learning and staying at the forefront of development in this field. And it's that unwavering commitment to growth that sets her apart as a remarkable healthcare professional. In fact, just recently, she was recognized by the Puget Sound Business Journal as the Medical Hero Award recipient. And today we have the privilege of diving into Dr. Neeta's experience and discovering why she finds it vital to stay curious and keep learning in the field she is so passionate about. We'll explore the transformative power of knowledge and how it allows her to provide the best care possible to her community and patients. Additionally, Dr. Neeta is embarking on a new endeavor, launching her own podcast, and we'll have the opportunity to hear her enthusiasm and learn why she's excited about this venture. Throughout her podcast, she aims to share valuable insights, empower patients, and foster a community of support and knowledge. So join us as we delve into the world of pediatric care, lifelong learning, and the exciting journey of podcasting with the incredible Dr. Neeta. Get ready to be inspired by her unwavering passion for making a difference in the lives of children and their families. Welcome, Dr. Neeta. So excited to have you here.
Thank you for having me on your podcast and so excited to be chatting with you.
My pleasure. And can I share a little bit behind the scenes for our story? You're actually the pediatrician for my little ones, and I have had such a pleasure of meeting you. And to share a little bit more of the context, we moved to Snoqualmie area in Washington, this beautiful place. And I came here with our then 1-year-old who was always getting into crazy stuff. Like he's been to the ER 4 times, had stitches. And that my initial pediatrician who was there, nothing against him, but I felt a little bit of that judgment. He was like, you should really, make sure he's careful. And I was like, okay, I'm trying. And then Dr. Neeta came in and replaced the pediatrician because they transitioned somewhere else. And I was so grateful because you were a breath of fresh air. Like there was no judgment that I felt. There was just this compassion, unwavering support, feeling like, yep, you're doing your best in keeping them alive. And so I just appreciate you on a personal level. And I'm so excited to share your knowledge, your passion, and the little insights about the podcast coming up. So thank you for being there for me. And I'm excited to share that knowledge with the other parents out there.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for coming to my practice. You've been such an amazing parent. And I think, as parents, we try the very best. And children are different. So you just have to support them and, send them into the world and say, yes, I love you. And there you go. So, yeah, no judgment in parenting. I mean, you can't, right?
I love that. And as we talked about, sending into the world, what got you started into this whole crazy world of pediatrics? I was talking to a teacher or somebody who used to be a teacher the other day, and I feel like being a teacher and a doctor, those are two of the most difficult professions because they take such a big heart to care, to show compassion, to constantly come back and show up for each person in a genuine way to help them along their journey. So could you tell us about your path? What got you here? What keeps you here too?
I was born in India, right? I was born in India, and I think when I was 6 years old, I used to be giving medicines and to all my people who used to work in my house. So my father was in a transferable job, so we had a gardener, we had a cook, and everything. So whenever they used to fall sick, I would go to my mother and ask her for the medicine so that I would give them. And when they would get better, I would feel very happy. So I realized gradually that I really liked doing this. And then my dad, this was his all-time dream that one of his kids be a physician. So I was like, you know what? Yeah, I was good in studies. I was doing very well. And I was like, why not? And so I loved it, and it was his dream. So I took it as his dream and ran it with it. And I'm really grateful to my father for knowing that this is who I am and encouraging me to become a physician, because I always say this: I do not know if there was any other job I was capable of doing in this world than being a physician. So, that's how my journey as a doctor started. So very early, like 6 years, I knew I wanted to be a doctor, and that's how it is. And then why pediatrics is very it's actually very strange, because I trained as an OBGYN in India. I did my MD as OBGYN in India. And then while I used to deliver the babies, before something would happen, I would just help them suction and resuscitate. So not really resuscitation, but just stabilize them. And I realized that I liked taking care of kids more than I liked taking care of the adults. Nothing against the adults, but I just think I was more compatible with the kids. And then I went up to my professor in pediatrics there, and they said that, well, no, you'll have to take the entrance exam all over again to get into pediatrics. And I was like, I'm not going to do that. And so then I got married, and I got a second chance and picking up my career. So because when you come to United States from any country, you have to take your USMLEs again. You have to apply for your residency again. And I was like, yes, this is my chance. Let me just do pediatrics. And I think that is the best professional decision I took for myself, because it's been 25 years doing pediatrics. I love it. There could not be anything else that would deter me to not go to the office every day and take care of the kids. I just enjoy my time so much.
I can hear that in your voice. And I think it's such a breath of fresh air, because I think when you do something for a while, it might seem like, well, how do you keep that passion alive? So clearly you have it. Can you give us a little bit of your magic sauce? Like if you put something extra in your coffee, what keeps that magic alive for you in this space?
You know what? I just enjoy taking care of the kids so much. Like yesterday, I was at the office and I had this little guy who's he's 5 years old, and I have seen his. They've just moved into my practice. I've seen his older sibling. And he got a pair of orange glasses for me. Plastic orange glasses. He got a pair for himself and he got a pair for me. And we both put it together. And it doesn't have any glass in it, right? It's just the outside. We both put it together. We both clicked a picture together. I gave him a big hug and I said, thank you so much. And he had the brightest smile. He was so excited that he and I share the same glasses. And then, I have these little kids who will make up stories like, oh, my tummy is hurting. I really got to go see Dr. Jain. And they come to my practice and they just sit and they just chat with me. And the parents are like, but I thought your tummy was hurting. No, I just wanted to see her. Why? How could you not do this? How could you not every day get up and say, how many hugs I'm going to get? How many smiles I'm going to get? How many times will I make a difference in somebody's life? The other day, I had a 19-year-old who I've been seeing since she was 12. She gave me the biggest hug ever. And she said, I'm so grateful that you are in my corner. And, these are the stories that keep me going every day. And, I'm going to say, I'm not going to lie, I have tough days. There are days that I'm like, question, what am I doing? But then I'll have a couple of patients like this. And I was like, this is the reason why I'm doing it. And I get up next day and I come to the office and I'm like, yep, this is it. This is why we are doing this. So yeah, every day something changes and you see your little tiny hope, your smile affect somebody. And that's what we do, right? As human beings. And I get to do this day in and day out. So why will I not?
Amazing. So beautiful. I love that you have so many people who get to work with you and get to share your energy. And I'm not surprised at all that all these wonderful stories come out of it. And again, you mentioned you've been in this space for a while. So I'm curious, how have you seen this pediatric space evolve? And maybe could you touch about like how do you keep growing and staying up to date in the needs of this space?
Yeah. So not only pediatric space, but I think the whole healthcare has evolved so much, right? I always, and I read this somewhere and I always believe this, we know only 25% of human body. The rest 75%, we are still learning. right? Every day it's a new thing. One day we learn something, and after a couple of years we realize, no, it's not like that, it's something different. So medicine per se is evolving every day. I'm just curious by nature, and I think that's why I love doing pediatrics, because kids are curious by nature. And I always like to read, like every day in the morning before I go to work. For 15 minutes, I'll scroll through all the new data which has come in, all the new publishing that has happened. That's my everyday thing, and I get snippets of it because I just like to read, and I like to give the most recent knowledge to my parents, that hey, this is happening into the world. And I've realized that as I am doing this and learning every day, my practice has evolved. I have started to do things which I never used to do before, and I'm seeing the good benefit and the effect of it on my patients and my parents. So for me, learning is an everyday thing. I learn so much from my patients, from my parents, because everybody does things in different way which they have learned from somewhere, and that works. And so you bring that knowledge to the other people. That's how knowledge grows. That's how human beings grow, right? The more we learn, the more we impart, and the more we grow. So I think that's what keeps me curious.
Absolutely. And I also know that you've been recognized a lot. And I'm not surprised. Like, I always see, well, A, I'm humble and grateful that we're friends and that you joined me here and they were having this discussion, but not because you're somebody who's looking for accolades, but you've been recognized a lot in our local area. Like, we talked about the Puget Sound Award. Like, you were one of the 4 doctors recognized, and also like from a smaller hospital, like competing with all these other big wigs. So it's incredible. Do you have a sense, if you could humbly share, what like why do you stand out and amongst all the people who are doing this? Is there something that, like, you have the secret sauce? Is it the energy? Is that the curiosity? Do you have a sense of what helps you thrive in this space?
I think why I have been, and I don't know why I get recognized, but I'll tell you how I practice. All the patients that I see, I treat them like my own babies. I never call them my patients. I have thousands of babies. That's how I call. When they walk through the doors of my office, I feel responsible for their happiness and their growth. And then, but whatever I do it with conviction and from my heart. I am one person who cannot put a facade. I don't ever do like, this is what I'm going to tell you, and but because it's a data. For me, I want to make sure that my children are happy, that my families are happy taking care of their children, because parenting is a long journey. It's very arduous sometimes. It's very difficult. It's gratifying, but it can be very difficult. And with today's scenario, the parents are worried about the safety of their children. The parents are worried about the mental health of their children. So for me, it's very important that every parent, every patient feels like they are heard, they are respected, and the dignity of their life is upheld. And so I always have practiced like that, and more so now in the last few years, when I see the struggle of these parents and the patients, my heart goes out to them. And I was like, no, if in my power I can give hope and happiness to even one family, I would have done something remarkable. And that's why I think that comes out sometimes, and people take notice of that. And that's why I get these recognition, because people have to be respected. They have to be cared, right? They have to feel validated. And if they do like that, then they feel better. That's how we feel, right?
Absolutely. No, I think we feel the people's intention behind their words. So even if somebody's telling you something difficult, which I'm sure must happen in the medical profession, right? There's things you don't want to hear, or the truths that are maybe uncomfortable. If the person has the intention of, I care for you and I want you to be better, you will feel that on a deep level. And we feel the difference too. If somebody's smiling at you, but what they're saying is very nice, but they don't care, we also feel that like something's not right here. So I think your genuine care is felt because your intention aligns with what you say.
Yeah.
And on that topic of care and the information that you're sharing and helping parents, could we touch on the podcast idea? So, share a little bit more about that, what you want to share, because I'm so excited about the potential of this resource for parents.
Yeah, so for many years, and I have to say thank you to you, Anya, for kind of telling me, no, you can do it. So for many, many years, I have been, there are only few patients that can come into my practice. But I see that sometimes when I say something or when I help them or I give them some little tiny tips, my parents, when they do it, they come back and say, Dr. Jain, I cannot even tell you how that much helped me and how my child and I are so much better, or we are doing so much better. And so that thought started coming that I can only see so many patients, but my words can go far beyond. And if I'm able to help, then why not? And I always say that I'm a very technologically in a very disadvantaged position, so I cannot do that. But then I realized that yes, I can speak, right? I can talk. This is what I do for a living. So why not send these words far away so that maybe somebody can hear those words and feel a little bit more comfortable, a little more at ease with parenting. And so that was my only thought about starting this podcast. I'm excited about it because it's going out of my comfort zone and doing something that I never have done before. But I'm slowly gathering courage and wanting to do this, and I'm hoping that by the end of this year I will be able to put it into the market so that people who need to hear can hear these words.
We're going to make it happen. We're going to make it happen. This is going to happen, not if, it's a when. And we like the title The Parenting Hut. Is that still in play?
Yes, it's called the parenting hut because for me, a hut is a small thing, but it encompasses a lot and it gives you a sense of security. And so that's what I want. I want my parents to feel secure and happy parenting their children.
So beautiful. I will keep everybody posted on the Parenting Hut and when it comes out, more updates, because we're going to make this happen. Because I'm sure you can tell, Dr. Neeta is so full of passion, so full of care, and has a lot of important things to share with parents out there. On that topic, do you mind giving us a little bit, like, what are some of the topics or themes that maybe we can touch on for parents right now? Like any trends that you're seeing, any advice that you have that are maybe top of mind that we can share?
I think the big things that I want to share with the parents is we as parents always feel guilty, right? We are guilty. If we are working, then we feel guilty we are not spending more time. If we are not working, then we are feeling guilty. Oh, if I was to do something meaningful, maybe I would raise my child in a different way. We are always doubting ourselves. We are always feeling so guilty. I want to tell the parents that parenting is a lifelong journey. We parent on many different platforms. How we have been parented, how we have seen other people parent, how we just, according to our personality, parent. No parenting journey is similar. It's everybody has a unique way, a style of parenting. But I want everybody to understand that parent your children from. So I always say this: love your children from your heart and parent them from your head. What that means is that love your children unconditionally. But please remember that have a very compassionate and a clear boundary for them, because when you have a clear and compassionate boundary, your children understand that you are coming from a place of love, but there are certain things which are not acceptable and should not be done. So growing forward, there is no big conflict. You talk about things, you kind of converse with them, and you, some things you accept and some things they accept, and slowly you keep going, because it's a journey, right? It's not going to end tomorrow and you're like, okay, I'm done today. No, it's lifelong. Even when your child becomes 30, 40, 50, you're still going to be the parent. And so have a proper line of communication. That's the most important thing of parenting, the one big word, communication. If you are able to clearly tell them what you expect, and if they are able to clearly voice their concerns and their wants, it'll work. And that's the one big thing I want to talk to parents through my podcast, depending upon those the different struggles of parenting, which I have gone through as parenting my two girls, and what I have learned and what I have helped and seen with different families that I have been involved with. I think that's what my podcast is all about, supporting and giving those guidelines, those hope for the many families which I hope to touch lives for.
I'm sure you will. And I look forward to seeing that in action, and just you're touching so many lives already and just magnifying that with the opportunity to have your podcast out there. And one thing that we talked a little bit about behind the scenes, if we could touch on, is also the subject of mental health and how we're seeing some not great trends around that for kids. Do you want to touch a little bit more about that and your thoughts and anything you want to share with parents around that?
Yeah, so we've always had these issues about mental health in the community. I mean, we are human beings. We have emotions. So um, different people's actions or different environmental struggles hit us. Some people are resilient. They take it. They say okay and they move on. But some people cannot, and they get really overwhelmed, and it affects them a lot. Mental health is important because our mind is a very powerful weapon, and I really call it as a weapon because it can make and break a human being. And so in the last 2 years, more so, now 3 years going, I realized ever since the pandemic hit that people became more distraught. It was very apparent that many people were struggling, and the amount of kids who committed suicide, the parents who committed suicide, it was mind boggling to me. And I started seeing more and more kids in my practice, very young kids. And you would never expect a 4 or 5 year old complaining about being sad or acting out and everything, but I started seeing more and more of that. And so I realized that something has to be done about it. We really need to talk about mental health. We can't say that no, it's just a phase and you're going to get over it. No, this is for real. And so a lot of times I started talking. I have started talking, and I actively try to touch base with every parent, and my first question always is, how are you doing? Because if my parents are doing well, my children will do well. Remember always that the parents are the fulcrum of the seesaw for the children, right? And if my fulcrum is not strong, my plank will not be strong. And so it's very important for me to understand where the parents are coming from, what are their anxieties, because I have a lot of parents who are very anxious, and they subconsciously impart that anxiety and that depression to their kids, and these kids are picking up these body languages, these words from their parents, and they are taking it into their own little bodies. And so I talk a lot to the parents now, which I didn't used to do. I mean, I used to always ask them how you're doing, but I actively now reach out to them and I tell them that maybe if you get a little help, and I want to make sure that everybody understands that mental health is not a taboo. It is just like our bodies, just like you have strep throat and you take antibiotics to get it better. Similarly, for mental health, reach out to people. There is help available. If you need therapy, if you need counseling, if you need medication, do it, because we are doing a lot of work as adults. We work, we are in environments which are toxic, and then we take care of our kids also, which can be overwhelming. So take care of yourself so that you can take care of your children better. I think so that's why mental health for me has become very important in today's work that I'm doing.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you sharing. And I know that you've also continued your education in that subject, which I think is amazing because it's so important. And there's always new research coming out, and I'm sure there's new skills. And I love that you're somebody who's always trying to be as up to date on everything to provide the most value to all of us who work with you. And on that subject, I was thinking as a parent, there's always like, again, you mentioned the guilt, right? And are we doing the right thing? Are we giving people enough attention? Are we selfish for trying to give ourselves time to recover? But to your point, we also need to have some energy to give back, right? So we need to say, like, yeah, it's not selfish. It's really the ability to restore myself that gives me the ability to be more graceful. And I know I can see my energy or reflect the state that I'm at based on how I'm interacting with my kids. When I sense them becoming shorter, that's not a reflection of them. Like, they're still going to be their 1 and 4 and 10-year-old selves doing this. But if I'm more tired, I'm going to respond a little bit shorter and not be my ideal self. And that to me is an opportunity to give myself grace and say, like, hey, let's slow down and realize, what do I need for myself so I can show up better?
Yeah.
And not just be like, okay, Anya, like, you're not doing a good job, guilt, 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 blah, 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 blah. But no, just like have the reflection, see what's happening, if any, that's causing you to react a certain way, and give yourself grace to hopefully show up better.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
Absolutely. And the other thing I wanted to talk about is, if you don't mind sharing your perspective, I know this is a hotly debated subject, but while I was working at Meta, there was a group of moms, and we had this conversation about, like, what extracurricular activities are you sending your children to? And maybe this is just my own parenting style. My mom let me do whatever I want. I didn't go to any after school activities. And not saying that's good or bad, but I think it's a hard thing where you want your child to have a certain kind of future. You want to make them feel like they're capable of many things. But sometimes it feels like there's this overwhelming pressure. Like, am I doing enough? Do they need to do music and sports and everything? Need to be brilliant at every curricular? To me, it feels overwhelming and stressful just even thinking about it. So I'd love, like, your professional opinion. Like, how do we approach this whole subject of, like, preparing them for what's next while balancing their own sense of agency, their own sense of being, and still doing the best we can?
Yeah. Oh, that's such a beautiful topic to talk about. And I'm so grateful that you are breaching this topic because, yes, we as parents want to do the best for your child, right? We always have good intention. I feel like that. But I also want to say that every child is unique. Some children thrive on go, go, go. Some children get burnt out when they are go, go, go. So, number one, always for me, is know your child. Know your children's strength. What is it that they are really strong in? And then encourage them to do that. Don't always keep saying that. Don't try to pull up the negative aspect of your children. Every child has a positive and negative aspect to them. I feel like many times we are trying to fix the negative parts of our children. And so we keep pushing them more and more. Yes, your child should be a well-rounded individual. So yes, they should do sports, they should do extracurricular. But I really would say this to everyone, that don't burn them out. Every day I have kids who leave their house at 6 o'clock and come back into their house at 8 o'clock in the evening. After school, they have two activities every day. And these are like 7 or 8 year olds. And then when I talk to them, they are like, I'm very tired. I don't get time to play. And that's what I want to tell all the parents. Yes, one or two activities per week is fine, but don't do too much every day, because these are little bodies. They can't keep up. They don't have any so much cognitive and physical ability that they can keep going, because they fall apart. And when they fall apart, they act out. And when they act out, then parents are like, I can't handle it. I need some therapy. I need some medication. If you could only pull back a little bit, give them a little bit more space, and let them play, because children are meant to play. They learn most with play. They learn most by being comfortable in their own skin, like anybody else. So yes, it's nice and important to do extracurricular activity, but don't compete with other people. Everybody is doing their own thing. check back and see what your child is comfortable with and do that. And yes, do extracurricular activities because these are important for the all around growth of your child, but maybe tone down a little bit. Instead of like doing two extracurricular activities every day, maybe do 2 or 3 in a week, so that the children get the benefit of it, yet they are not hurried so much, yet they are not so stressed. That's what I would suggest.
I love that. And I'm going to insert my maybe unpopular idea, but I'm just going to do it. And people can totally disagree with me, and that's okay. But I think it's also important to see how the time commitment plays out of your family schedule.
Yes.
Because I think we want to do our best for our kids, but to the whole conversation, like you have to balance, like, what does that then add to your whole family dynamic, to your marriage? All right. Like I share with my husband all the time, like, I don't want to be parents who spend all their time on their kids and then their marriage falls apart because they don't even know what they're doing together. They're always busy. And again, I give so much credit to people who are putting the time. It's a sacrifice. It takes time and commitment. I don't take that lightly. And don't hear me wrong in this. But I think for me, it's important to say, well, if we're putting in time, how is it going against other things that are helping us come together as a family,
Yeah.
helping us time to connect with like my spouse, my children? Like that's also important to me because I think as somebody who grew up traveling a lot and being the foreign kid a lot, I didn't go to a lot of other activities. I didn't do any sports. Maybe that gives people comfort. I didn't even speak English when I came to first grade in the US. I went to schools where I didn't speak the language. Turned out okay for the most part, a little crazy for the most part. But my point is like children are very capable. Like if they miss something, they're not doing something well at one point in time, it doesn't mean they're failing.
Yeah.
Right. So give yourself grace, give them the opportunity to find themselves and also think about like, how is this shaping your whole family? Because the point I was trying to make is that to me, what I learned getting later in life is that the attention you give to a child is like, I care about you. You're important to me and I love you. Like those aren't extracurricular activities. Those are the things that you're projecting them in their life that make them feel confident and resilient to take risks. And it doesn't take any money and it doesn't take any extra thing. It's just something you're projecting. And that's the most important thing that I'm trying to give to my child. And people can disagree with me. That's okay.
Yeah, no, I hear you, because I feel like as you grow up, they will play those many sports only. They will do so many music. They will do so many theater and all. But the bond that you will have with your child when you spend time with them will be lifelong. And that's why it's important, spend time with your child, be there present in their life. Do not always lay their whole life path in front of them. Let them guide themselves what they want to do. It's not like you should not hear them or encourage them and guide them in the right direction, because they are children. At any given time they have 30,000 ideas. You cannot fulfill all 30,000 ideas, but the point is that guide them according to what they are most passionate about, and the child will do well in those areas. You will do well in, because now your child is doing those things by their own accord, so you don't have to kind of keep on reminding them, because they want to do it, so they will do it better. So it's a win-win situation. You have a better relationship with your child. The child is motivated to do what they want, are most passionate about, and you are bonded with your child, right? And so I feel like, yes, do it, but don't lay the whole life path for your child, because remember, the best laid path will go haywire if the child does not want to do it. You cannot do it. And so for me, it's always, yes, hear them, not just listen to them, really hear them, what they are trying to tell you, and it'll be better for everybody.
Absolutely. And another maybe controversial topic that I'm just going to sprinkle in here is around resilience. And can I be very transparent? Like,
Yeah.
My children are blessed because again, I had a tech job that changed, but they are growing up in a lifestyle that I didn't get to do when I grew up. And honestly, that concerns me a little bit because the struggles I had to face made me who I am today. I don't take for granted what I have now because I grew up in a very different environment, in a very different setting. And so what I have now, I really appreciate because I have that contrast. And my kids won't have that. And I think that I worry about their ability to be resilient or taking for granted some of the little things because they grow up somewhere different. So I know there's pros and cons, and people have like don't give medals kind of philosophy, and like people think differently about how to make their children resilient. But I'd love to hear from you your thoughts on this topic because I find it really fascinating and important. I think that what's more important to me in my children is not what activity they do, but can they embrace an activity independently? Like, are
Yes.
they open to like fail and then try again? And not that they're always there, but like that's what I want to teach my child is not a specific activity, but the mindset of resilience where they don't need me to be resilient in the world.
Yeah. No, this is such a great topic, and I've been talking a little bit more in my practice about making your children resilient, because if you read about all the child psychiatrists across the country talking about, the one thing that they are all talking about is let your children fail. And as parents, this word failure is, we take it with so much impact. I cannot even tell you, like, oh my God, how can I? But I want to tell you, and I say this to everybody, and I want to put it out today through your podcast is, if you do not let your child fail, the child will not be able to do anything in the future. So I want to tell this story because I read this and I thought it was such an important thing to talk about. There was this man who was sitting in his yard, and he saw that there was this cocoon of a butterfly, and he saw that the butterfly was, it was a newly formed butterfly and was struggling to get out of the cocoon. And the person was very compassionate, so he got a razor and he cut through the cocoon. Lo and behold, the butterfly fell out. The wings were not fully formed, and the butterfly just fell to the ground, kept on trying to fly, but could not fly. And the man was very sad that what did he do wrong? He had good intention, and why would the butterfly not fly? So he tried to do everything. Lo and behold, the butterfly never flew, and after a while, the butterfly just stayed on the ground. And so he talked to his friend about it, and the friend looked at him and he said, why did you have to cut the cocoon? So he said, I was trying to help. I was trying to make it easy for the butterfly. So the friend said that, did you realize that this is nature? If the butterfly did not go through those obstacles, it would not fly, because when it pushes itself through the cocoon, all the fluid in its body gets reabsorbed and finished. So that's why it can open its wings and fly. I want to tell this story to every parent. Yes, help your child, but do not do things for your child in the sense that do not always be a helicopter parenting. Oh, let me do this. Let me do this for you. Let your child tie their own shoelaces. Let your child eat by themselves. Let your child fail in the class. Don't make friends for your children. Let your children go out and make friends for themselves. Don't, if your child hasn't done an assignment, don't go and justify to the teacher why the child didn't do an assignment. Let the child justify why they didn't do an assignment. If the teacher is giving them a punishment or is taking away some privileges, let them, because this is how they will learn. When the children grow older, let them do their own laundry, let them do their dishes, because this is how they are going to learn. I have so many kids in the college who get so overwhelmed by when they have to do everything, they turn around and come back and live with their parents. Why? Because they have never been given the opportunity to do it. Let them fail. I will give this I will give this story out there. So this used to happen to my children. It happened so that one time they had an assignment that they had to give to their class teacher, and for whatever reason that assignment was left home, and I got a call from school saying that, oh my god, mom, I left it, can you bring it today? And I was like, yeah, I was going on my way to the office, and I said, I'm going to drop it. And then another time it happened that, I'm sorry, but I left my something back. And that day I said, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to bring it. Pin drop silence on the other end. You're not? I was like, no, because you left it. You should understand that mom cannot keep running. That day and today, it has never happened. They would check everything because they knew that mother is not going to run and bring it. Was I being a bad parent? Maybe in some people's eyes, I was being a bad parent. But this is the only way I would teach my kids responsibility. If I kept doing it, they would never learn. And so, for how many years would I keep running? I could not run all the time. Today, they are sitting in two different states. Can I run all the time? No. I tell them, figure it out. And if you can't, reach out to mom so that I can help you. But after a while, I'll get a call. Thank you, I figured it out. Because as they grow up into adults, they have to figure it out. I cannot be i cannot be there all the time because I don't have an immortality stamp on me. I will go someday, and when I go, then what? And so I want every parent to make their children resilient. If there only one thing that you give to your child, make your children resilient. Let them stand up, let them be responsible for whatever they have done, because if there is going to be no effect to the causes, it is never going to work, right? So our job as parents is not only to clothe, bathe, and help our children grow. Our job is to make sure that our children are responsible individual of the society, because our children are hope for the future. And if we do not make them resilient, and if we do not make them responsible, we have no hope for the future, right? So
Right.
that is very important, that you raise your children like that. So yeah, resilience is huge. Ever on all the work that I do, resilience is important.
I love that. And one thing I heard that I keep reminding myself is when we talk to our kids about what they have done, to pivot from saying, hey, you've done such a good job, but to be like, you work so hard at it. To focus away from like the final destination to more of rewarding the process and that the fact that they struggled, and reframe in their mind from being like, well, I need to be always good, because then if they confront a situation where they're recognized for always doing good job, that a whatever, they can face a hesitation to even try, because what if they're struggling internally and they're getting this validation through only like their achievements? But if you refocus the attention and saying, hey, you tried really hard, and the effort, then they can say, well, if I'm struggling, I can try hard. Like that in itself is part of like the value in this whole process, and it doesn't limit their attempt, because if they're still trying hard, even if they're quote unquote failing, it's okay. They're being reframed to think about it as this process of learning and failing and trying. And I find that really valuable in how I'm trying to shape that experience with my kids. And also our 10-year-old, I mean, she wants to be a research scientist and a YouTuber. And the point about letting them find their own journey, it's not that I want to make it easy for him. I want to also empower him. But I also think about the power of play and how to be creative. I think there's so much power, instead of saying like, let's do extracurricular activities and sport, nothing against that. But like, how can you get them excited about something and let them act it out in their own environment? Like give them a safe opportunity to fail. And I think there's so much power to that. People will learn a lot quicker if they have this thing that they're really interested in. You give them a way to actually practice it and make exciting. And I skipped like 2 grades in high school. I went to junior year after my 8th grade, and it wasn't hard at all because I didn't know the difference. And what I'm saying is like, I think people have this idea that you have to be brilliant or something. I'm not brilliant at all. But I think that when you give people just the opportunity to learn and challenge themselves, and you add some creativity and play, they will learn so much faster and do amazing stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. 110% what you are saying. That's why the whole thing we talk about, Let your children be creative. Let your children be curious. Let your children be hungry. That then only they will be able to bring out their best potential. If you bring everything to them, that here you go, they will never be hungry. And if you are not hungry, you will not grow. People do things when they are like, how is this happening? I want to learn more about it. That's hunger. Let your children be hungry so that they can be creative, so that they can learn, they can grow. Otherwise, they'll never learn. They'll never be happy. That's what.
Absolutely. And I'm looking at the time, and was there anything that we did not touch on, Dr. Neeta,
I
before
think
we...
you did such a remarkable job with all your questions. Your questions covered so much and so much more. So, Anya, this is amazing. Yes,
Oh,
thank
I
you.
appreciate you. I'm so excited we did this. Full transparency, we tried to do a first episode of Dr. Neeta over here. The kids were just crazy, and we did not do the justice to Dr. Neeta's knowledge and passion. Like, we have to do this again. So much better second time around. But Dr. Neeta, how do people find you? Is there like, should they find you on the web pages, the professional web pages? How do people connect with you if they want to?
So I am on LinkedIn as my name. I also work at the Snoqualmie Valley Hospital. So if you guys want to connect, we can connect through my office. And yes, hopefully, when I start my podcast, we'll connect more. I'll hear more voices. I'll hear more opinions and how to make the podcast more impactful and more helpful for the people. So yes, hoping that that will work and happen
It
very
will.
soon.
It will. It will. Making it happen, manifesting it.
Yeah,
Lovely.
manifesting
Okay.
it.
So we have 3 short answer questions to wrap up whenever you're ready.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Let's do it. Okay. First off, success to me is...
Success to me is learning, curiosity.
Okay, love it. My favorite daily habit is...
Actually, my favorite daily habit is to drink my first cup of tea in the morning. Make it. I like to make this ginger tea, so I'll pound the ginger and make it. That is my most favorite activity every morning.
That's lovely. I take a raw bite of ginger with hot water. Almost the same thing. Almost the same thing. Yours sounds a lot more pleasurable. Okay, last one. And in the positive context, going off track is...
Going off track is very important for me because if you keep following the beaten path, you do not know what lies on the left or right of that path. And if you wander into the left or right path, you will actually find new vistas for yourself. So for me, going off the right path is very important because that makes me grow as an individual. And I never want to stop growing because, that's what humans are about. We've got to keep growing.
Absolutely. You're amazing. This was so much fun. And to all of our listeners, I would love to hear what you thought, what insights you took away. Share with us, tag us on social media. We'd love to hear your feedback. And to all of you listening, thank you so much for coming right off track with us today. Until next time.